Okay, we're going to talk about our drawing aids, our grips, our object snaps, our polar coordinates. So what we're going to be dealing with is the bottom of our screen where our toggle switches are. We're going to talk about this toolbar that we loaded. This is our object snap toolbar. We're going to talk about grips, and we're going to talk about how to move around in AutoCAD. So let's look at some of these toggle switches down here at the bottom. Next to the word model is our grid. If you click it, it turns the grid on. In our class, we leave the grid off. Anytime you start just a basic brand new drawing, the grid is defaulted on. So we can just click that button and it goes away. You also have snap mode. If ever you find your mouse jumping to different points and won't select a line, make sure you haven't accidentally clicked snap. Snap will actually snap to grid lines that you specify you want them to snap to. So we don't really have to use those in order to draw. The next button is dynamic input. We're going to turn this on and you're going to see what it's going to do in just a second. Here we have ortho mode. I'll show you what that does. But first, let's turn on polar tracking. Beside polar tracking, there's a little arrow, and this will let us change the angle at which it snaps. So I want you to click 30, 60, 90, and we can change that on the fly. When we're in a command, if we're in line or anything like that, we can actually change that angle and make it snap at different angles. We're going to skip isometric. You won't do that until level 2. This is our tracking, our object snap tracking, so let's click that and turn that on. This is object snap. Click and turn that on. You have a little arrow beside that as well, so click that. The things that we have turned on for object snaps are endpoint, midpoint, center, intersection, and extension. We don't want to turn all of these on because it'll make it impossible for you to actually draft successfully because it's going to start snapping everywhere. So anytime we need something that is on the list but we don't need it a lot, like a tangent, we can pull it from this object snap menu over here on the side. Okay, so these are the things that we want selected on our running object snap. So click that arrow and it'll go away. These 3 lines, that's the line weight, so let's turn that on. You're really not going to be able to see anything right now with this until we set up layers and line weights. The line weight button really isn't going to do anything for you, but we want it automatically to be turned on. Okay, now that we have these activated, if you go to your line command and click a point, you're going to see that your mouse looks a lot different. Now you have a lot of drawing aids attached to your cursor. As you move around, it's going to show you the length of your line. It's going to show you the angle of the line. And you see these little dotted lines that keep popping up? That's our tracking. When we've turned on that polar tracking, it's snapping at 0, 30, 60, 90. This snaps at increments of the angles of a circle. So this is going to help us draw better. So if I want a straight line all the way across, I can just pull at 0 and click a point. Or I can tell it how long to be. If I want a line straight up 2 inches, I type in the number 2, and you see that now in my dynamic input box. That's the very first blue box that we have turned on. That shows me my numbers on the screen instead of the command line. If you hit enter, you've drawn a 2-inch line. Now notice that we can click still just like we did before by using our cursor. Now notice whenever I get near a line, I get these little shapes that pop up. We'll come back to that in just a second. Our polar snap makes a snap at these different angles. I want you to now turn on ortho. You can't use them both at the same time. If you turn on ortho, polar turns itself off. Now try to click your points around your screen. Notice that you can only move in 90-degree angles. It'll only move in 90-degree angles. That's what ortho is for. So let's turn that off by clicking our polar, and that will automatically turn off ortho. Click your arrow and now change your angle to 45 degrees. Notice now it snaps at 45. You can snap down to 270. See, it'll snap at different increments when you have your drawing aids on. All right, let's highlight this and click erase. Notice we picked a different way to erase. We didn't go to the command first. We highlighted and then picked the command. I want you to draw me some shapes. Draw a circle. Draw a rectangle. And let's draw a line. When you have these shapes on your screen, if you go to the line command and you start moving towards one of your shapes, let's move towards the circle. See that circle that popped up in the center? That is my center object snap. When I have that square with the little dot, when I have the object snap button on, this is the drawing tools that make sure I'm exactly where I want to be. I'm not just close. I'm exactly in the center. I don't have to have my mouse in the center. Once that is activated and I click, it will grab that center object snap. As I move over to the corners or to the end points, see that square? That is your end point object snap. So I can be right on the end of that line and click, and I know that it's on the end. And it will be exact every time. You'll get used to the symbols that pop up with your object snaps. When you're on the midpoint, it's a triangle. That's in the very center of that line, the midpoint. You can just use your object snaps and snap all the way around. And once it's activated, when you click, it's going to grab that endpoint. You have object snaps on your toolbar that you can use. I'm going to draw another circle. Let's say I want a line tangent to these two circles. I don't want to turn it on my running object snaps. I want to just use it sometimes. So I'm going to go to line, and my last circle snap is called snap to tangent. I'm going to pick that circle, and it's attached. Notice, see, it's attached and it's staying tangent. I'm going to pick tangent again because it only works once. And now I can pick my other circle. I just have to be close, and when I click, it places it where it's supposed to be. Now that line is tangent to both circles. These will only work when you're in a command. If I click snap to tangent now, my command line says, I don't understand what you're trying to do. So anytime I click without being in a command, it's unknown command. It doesn't know what you want it to do. So you have endpoint, you have midpoint, which we keep on all the time. Center point we keep on all the time, but you have options for the quadrant, tangent, perpendicular, parallel, the nearest, or the insertion point, or a point. So there's lots of object snaps that we can use whenever we need them. Let's talk about the grips. If I click on a line and those blue grips pop up, what this will allow us to do, if you click on a grip and make it hot, look at that. Now you can stretch the line. The grips change what they do depending on the object you have selected. For just a plain line, if I click on the midpoint, I can pick it up and move it. For a circle, if I click on the center point, it will let me move it. If I click on the outside grip, now I can change the size of the circle. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to click on this rectangle. If I pick the midpoint, this is stretch. If I click the corner, this will let me change the geometry of the part. If I click on a grip and right mouse click, I have options from my modify, I can click move, and the grip is the base point. If I click the grip, right mouse click, rotate, the grip is the base point, pivot point. If I click the grip, right mouse click, scale, notice now it is scaling the object. So we have object snaps we can use, we have grips we can use, we have polar snaps that will snap to angles. So now I need to show you how you can move lines and create distance and angles with your lines. So I'm going to erase my screen. I'm going to go to the line command and I'm going to pick a point. The easiest way to draw in AutoCAD is the polar coordinate system. Point it in the direction you want it to go and tell it how long you want it to be. So I want a line straight across 4 inches. I'm going to point it at the 0 degrees and let it drag and track with my dotted lines. I'm going to type in 4 and hit enter. If I want to go straight up 2 inches, 2, enter. Let's say I want to go up at an angle. See how I'm using the angles? Let's say I want a 1-inch line at 45 degrees. I can point it in the direction, let it snap with the polar at 45, 1 and enter. Now if I want an odd angle, I'm going to type in 1 and I'm not going to hit enter, I'm going to hit the tab key. And now it's letting me type in an angle. Let's say I want a 38 degree angle. Now it's at a 38 degree angle. So you can use your polar coordinates to move around your screen. We also turned on this tracking. Let me show you how it works. Let's say I want to draw a line even with the line I just made. I didn't click, I let my object snap grab it, and now I'm tracking over. I'm going to click a point. I'm not going to click, I'm just going to let my snap grab, and I can track over, and now those 2 lines are exactly the same size. Notice how you can track to different places. See how it'll grab different object snaps and positions on your lines. So lots of helpful drawing aids with our toggle switches. We will always leave these on when we draw. There's a few occasions where I'll say turn your object snap off and place this and now turn your object snap back on, but you cannot draw properly unless you have your object snaps and your tracking, your polar on in your drawing.